My favorite part of the ULP community is the mixture of established companies with early stage startups, with academic researchers, and then over the last few years we've added high school and college students doing internships and getting exposed to what different careers are available in the life science industry.
When we first came in here, there was only a few companies, so it was very, very close-knit community. And as ULP began to expand, we started to see other skill sets, other knowledge bases enter into ULP. And throughout those communications and connections and through the events that ULP hosts, we were able to really help expand and grow as a company by leveraging other people's strengths where we might have weaknesses or vice versa. And that collaboration amongst companies can only really be done in a facility like ULP.
The ULP community has really helped Translucence through our growth. We were a very small bootstrapping company when we started out, and without ULP, I don't know if we would have made it.
There are two things I'm really proud about in terms of what ULP has accomplished in 2023. One is we've established Soka University as a vibrant additional site for ULP in Orange County to serve the early stage life science ecosystem. The other thing we've been able to do is build our internal resources with some key hires so that we now have the expertise on staff to deliver what I believe are the highest quality workforce development programs focused on the life science industry. And we feel like that foundation that we've built in 2023 is going to enable us to have outsized impact on the region in the future.
I believe that when a company is in an early stage of development or growing, that the resources have to be abundant. There has to be subject matter experts. There has to be people that are going to help elevate the company and get the company where they need to be.
I'm looking forward to really building the ecosystem, hopefully bringing in more partners. I think that if you want to be successful as a company in the life sciences, it's very important that you align yourself with other companies and other organizations that support the industry and have shown success. And no one has shown that success more than University Lab Partners.
In the next 5 years, we're going to continue to be a leader in the Southern California life science early stage development of companies. And that's going to take different forms. We're going to try to help companies accelerate. We're going to try to help companies collaborate with existing companies in the area. And we're probably going to attract new companies that come to us because of our unique position in the marketplace. So I think our impact will grow.
Good evening. I know everybody in this audience, so I don't really think I need to introduce myself. These are the diehard fans of ULP. Thank you guys so much for crossing the chasm to be here and supporting this important milestone today. I see Laura. Laura hasn't met me yet. I'm Karen Cook, Executive Director at University Lab Partners. I'm the one person that I don't know in the audience. And we are on live stream, so this is really exciting. I don't know how many people are, probably more people on live stream than in present now. But want to welcome everybody to the Next Generation Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, Barda, Accelerator Network launch. I want to share with you a little bit about ULP and our vision. Our vision at ULP is to establish a thriving life science innovation ecosystem with collaboration, inclusivity, and diversity as the catalyst for job creation and economic growth for our region. University Lab Partners, we opened in 2019, really to serve three needs that the Beal Family Foundation saw that were unmet here in Southern California. So number one is really to assist with the commercialization efforts by providing hard assets, facilities, infrastructure, but also the extensive network of subject matter experts and trusted partners to build an acceleration model that supports the connections and the necessary pieces that startups need in order to grow and thrive. Second, ULP serves as a landing ground for really serving as that life science hub here in Orange County. As you know, Orange County, we don't really have a downtown here. So really, we serve as that conceptual downtown area, and especially this building with UCI Beal Applied Innovation. So that's also provided through our extensive educational series, our thought leadership events that we do, and but it's really to serve as that hub for life science innovators to build the community around. Lastly, as our companies are creating amazing jobs, we really believe that we have to be an active catalyst and a participant in providing the next generation the opportunities to grow and thrive. So that is through our workforce development activities. Since inception, 2020, we started our workforce development programs during the pandemic to serve lockdown high school students. We've served over 3,000 students through our Medical Innovation Research and Entrepreneurship program that is being delivered through the Orange County K-12 Unified School Districts, and our hands-on laboratory courses that inspires and equips the next generation to have the necessary skills to enter the life science sector. As I reflect on the last 4.5 years and the impact that you see, and my phone's going crazy, we've contributed that this impact was not done independently by ULP. It really would not have been possible without our amazing team members, so passionately committed during a pandemic to launch ULP and to fulfill our mission. I want to give special kudos to our founding team members, Linda McCarthy, Martha Delgado, and Emily Tangsavath, our amazing RADX team members, Michael Koris, Julia Zakanshansky, and Darwin Salgado, and our first partners, UCI Beal Applied Innovation, and our long-standing community of supporters such as Insperity, and the folks in the Greater LA Incubator Network, which consists of UCLA Magnify, Cal State LA, Lab Launch, Hatch Spaces, and so many more. I want to express my sincerest gratitude today, and it's all because of each and every one of you always braving the chasm with us to be alongside us, that we have this momentous milestone to celebrate. So this past almost 1 year, we've been working with this little agency in Washington, D.C. called Barda, and it's almost been 1 year. And we're so excited to have them with us here today. They flew in all the way from the other coast, and we're here to announce that ULP has been selected to lead the MedTech and Diagnostics Hub for the next generation of Barda Accelerator Network. Leveraging the strength of our region and its capabilities alongside our partners across the nation, the Barda team selected ULP to lead, but we are not alone. Our consortium is also in partnership. It's called iCreate. I have to give you the acronym. I had to practice this. International Consortium for Research, Engineering, Acceleration of Technology Excellence. And our partners are CIMIT, and I can't use your no more, just CIMIT, no acronyms anymore, and our partner is Science Exchange. CIMIT is a group out of Mass General Hospital and Harvard Medical School, and they've had a long-standing partnership with ULP through the RADX program, which is Rapid Acceleration and Diagnostics program, and is a support of clinical and medtech product development. Science Exchange, we have Ann Wesch with us today, is a platform that serves as a marketplace for life science research and development support services. I want to personally thank Andrea DePatti for coming all the way over here to help us celebrate, and Ann Wesch with Science Exchange for making the trip out and to be here with us today. So make sure you introduce yourselves. Together, iCreate will support the development and acceleration of game-changing diagnostics and medical devices to detect, prevent, and respond to medical consequences that result from health security threats. Ultimately, the Barda Accelerator Network will be comprised of at least 5 hubs across the nation, supporting innovations in, which is iCreate, MedTech and Diagnostics, Vital, which will lead therapeutics and vaccines, and soon to be announced hubs in digital health, tools, special populations, and enabling technologies. You're going to hear from Mark Filerman in a bit, so he'll tell you more about the Therapeutics Hub and their partners. But lastly, I want to express my appreciation for the entire Barda team. This has been a journey, and it has really been an honor and pleasure to work alongside each of you. We got this to the finish line, but I think the fun is just starting, hence crossing the chasm to even come to a Barda event. But we're so excited to be part of this and to serve the nation in this capacity. So from the entire team, I'd like to introduce the Barda team. We have Asim Sobidi, Director of the Barda Drive Catalyst Office. He's going to be joining us on stage right after. He leads a team dedicated to fostering health security, innovation, and commercialization of technologies through private-public partnerships like Barda Ventures, the J&J Blue Knight Initiative and Partnership. With over a decade of experience in biomedical entrepreneurship and product development, Asim previously worked at the NIH, supporting entrepreneurs and startups at the NCI Small Business Development Center, NIH Small Business Education and Entrepreneurship Development, SEED Office, and the RADIX program. Please welcome Asim to the stage.
Thank you, Karen, and really excited to be here. Thank you to all of you for, as Karen pointed out, braving the roadblocks and everything to be here. My name is Asim Subedi. I lead the Catalyst Office in the Division of Research, Innovation, and Ventures at Barda. I think I have a few slides. I don't want to just talk. I wanted to have some graphics so I'm not boring you. Let's see. Okay. As it's being figured out, really excited to launch the Barda Accelerator Network today. It took a while. It obviously started with what we already had. That was an existing network and I'll talk about it a little bit. But when we started thinking about what does that next generation of the network looks like, it started with us sitting down and thinking through what did we learn from the last network. And in that period, a pandemic happened. So what did we learn from the pandemic? And based on that, what does the next generation of Barda Accelerator Network look like? Started with putting the call out for people to provide us with feedback. Based on that, we created a funding opportunity, and then we waited, and we got some excellent groups come in. And just based on what you saw the video with ULP and all the facts you saw, that was one of the reasons we picked ULP for the MedTech partner. Really excited again and vital, as Mark will talk about, and the partnership that they have built, but really excited about launching the network. I did want to, I'll just wing it and not use the slides, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what Barda is and what we do, and it's not as well known. A lot of people in the life sciences know about NIH and FDA and other entities. So we are in the Department of Health and Human Services, just like NIH is, just like FDA is, with a very specific mandate and much smaller than a lot of other institutions, but very much focused on what we are trying to do. And we, I think, have been quite successful in meeting some of those goals. So within the Department of Health and Human Services, we last year got elevated to an operating division. So we are in the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, or ASPR. And so ASPR's mandate is to really help us be prepared for and respond to any public health emergencies. And so, it could be both due to natural causes like hurricanes and pandemic and other threats, but also man-made threats like chemical, radiological, nuclear threats. And so BARDA, or Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority within ASPR, is tasked with creating products, so vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostic devices, that can really help us be prepared for and respond to these threats. And so we really take that responsibility quite seriously, and One demonstration of that we have been quite successful at that is over the last 15, 16 years we've been around, we have gotten, the slide says 87, but we're up to 89 products through FDA approval. And so we really are trying to develop these technologies that can be leveraged when the pandemic hits or any public health emergency that might arise that we are prepared for. Now, the reason we've been quite successful at getting to that number of products that have been approved and are available now for us to respond to these threats is because of the partnerships we have with our public and private sector partners. We cannot do this alone. Obviously, we have a great team of dedicated public servants as well as experts that we leverage and rely on. But the reason we've been able to bring these products forward is because of the innovators and entrepreneurs and companies that are out there really willing to partner with us to get their technology forward. So if you think about the technologies that have been developed, obviously there are larger companies that partner with us, but a lot of innovation really comes from those early stage innovators and really early stage entrepreneurs. Someone in a lab thinking about their experiment and discovering something that really has the potential to be that next technology that can take us forward. And to really ensure that those technologies move forward, we really need to be supporting both the early stage entrepreneurship and innovation as well as sort of that later stage innovation. So this is the right slide. So that's kind of like how we operate. Like we are really developing different tools and approaches to partner to support that innovation. And so you see a bunch of different mechanisms and approaches we take to do that. Starting with this vast majority of what we do is non-dilutive R&D funding mechanisms, both on the early stage for early stage innovation to de-risk the technologies so they can build it further and develop the technologies further, as well as at late stage where we can then bring the product all the way through FDA approval and to the market. But we are also really trying to build that ecosystem. Health security is not necessarily the most attractive space from a commercial point of view. And we don't want it to be attractive, right? We don't want people thinking like pandemic will happen all the time and let's develop technologies, but they do happen, and so we have to be prepared. And so we're really trying to build that ecosystem and foster that ecosystem so there are innovators, there are startups and companies out there that are either developing technologies just for that use case or developing technologies that have multiple applications that have a commercial use, but also can be applied for preparedness and response. And so we have a lot of these sort of ecosystem building partnerships. One of them is the partnership with Johnson & Johnson called Blue Knight. We have a venture partnership with a venture fund now that does equity investments. We have just are in the process of creating a decentralized clinical trial infrastructure and network. We have two consortium model, rapid response partnership vehicle and a biomanufacturing focus consortium, again, supporting innovation in those spaces. And Barda Accelerator Network, go to the next slide, which we launched in 2018 with the four goals that I've listed here. Really going out there and seeing what are the innovations that are happening. Can we leverage these existing accelerators that are out there? Can we tap into their resources and source some of the exciting innovations, those entrepreneurs and the startups? How can we get our messaging out? How can we get more and more people and companies to know about it? How can we support those entrepreneurs and startups as they're developing their technology? And how can we rely and leverage them to gain sort of the market intelligence and like what are the gap areas and what are the emerging areas and threats? So we leverage this model where we partnered with 13 different groups around the country, and we relied on their existing programming and the resources to really be able to source a lot of these ideas and technologies to provide that wraparound support. Little after this network was set up, we had the COVID pandemic start and really leveraged the network extensively during that to get those exciting technologies and ideas to come and work with us to develop those diagnostics that we needed or the therapeutics that we needed. As the the network evolved, and as we got to a point where the current iteration of the network was about to end, we looked back and we thought, what worked, what did not work? And so one thing that we figured, and when Manbir goes on the panel, he can elaborate on it a little more and get into in detail, but we really saw the value in having dedicated hubs that can really provide that deep technical expertise for that specific area. There was also that clear need for ability to really source globally and to support all the innovators and entrepreneurs and startups globally. And then we needed to build an infrastructure that we can rely on and leverage during times of these pandemics and other needs. We briefly heard about RADx, and one of the reason I think, and I was at NIS when that was happening and I was part of the RADx initiative, one of the reason I think RADx was quite successful in getting stood up really rapidly and quickly and really helped. I mean, if you look back at the pandemic, I think the numbers are in billions of tests that were produced because of the initiative that was set up. But RADx leveraged an existing infrastructure called Point of Care Technology Research Network that NIH had stood up years ago. And it was easy when needed to build on that already existing infrastructure. And so it's a similar idea. We wanted to build Barda Accelerator Network as that infrastructure that we can really tap into and rely on if there is ever a need, but really maintaining and building that ecosystem on an ongoing basis and providing the support. So that's what the new generation, next generation of Barda Accelerator Network is going to look like and do. So the next slide, there are going to be 5 hubs that we're planning on launching, with the 2 hubs that we launched and announced, iCreate for medical device and diagnostics, and Vital for therapeutics vaccines. Really excited about partnering with the consortium that has been built. And again, really, as Karen pointed out, it's just the beginning. It took a while to get us here, to get to the point of thinking about what does the new network look like and who are the partner and how do we work together. But it's a 10-year partnership, and hopefully will lead to a lot of approvals of new therapeutics and diagnostics and devices. And we will hopefully be in a better place than we are today, with new infrastructure that will be built, new innovators that will be encouraged, and new entrepreneurs that will set up companies and technologies that will help us in our goal for preparedness and response. So one, we'll be better prepared for any pandemic that comes. Hopefully we'll be able to prevent pandemics and other sort of threats from happening. And whenever it happens, we have better tools to respond. So next slide, you will see all the partners. And again, really, really excited to launch the network. We are also eagerly working on the other 3 hubs, and we'll, over the next few months, be announcing and launching all of those. But it's an amazing network that we hope we're going to be building, with all the partners working together to really support this health security innovation ecosystem, supporting the innovators and entrepreneurs and startups and companies that are working in this space. And again, developing those technologies that will help us be prepared for and respond to any of the threats that we might face. So with that, again, thank you all for being here. Very, very excited to launch the hub. Really thankful to the ULP team for hosting this and for welcoming us. And I will now pass it to Mark Filerman, who is the Managing Director for Life Sciences for Start2 Group, who will tell you about the Vital Hub.
Good evening. Good evening. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I am Mark Filerman. I'm managing partner at an organization called Start2. But before I get into talking about Start2 and the consortium, ACI, of Start2, ACI, and Biolabs, I just wanted to ask everybody to give a big round of applause to Barda for launching this initiative and being the cause of us all assembling here today. So, congratulations. Congratulations to Asim and Manbir and Mary and Matt and Connie, who have worked tirelessly to make this all happen. So this is a big day for everybody. So I am director of the Life Science Program at an organization called Start2. STAR2, coupled with two other organizations, ACI, Advise, Connect, Inspire, and Biolabs, and we have two people here who I'll introduce in a moment, are the consortium called VITAL. And VITAL stands for Vaccine Innovation and Therapeutics Acceleration Launchpad. And I will never say that again. I will just refer to ourselves as VITAL. And hopefully we will never have a pandemic, but we will remain vital over these years. So START2 as an organization has been around for about 14 years running accelerator programs. We are based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and have worked very closely with our two consortium partners. We have focused over the years specifically in the acceleration of therapeutics, vaccines, diagnostics, digital health, and devices. And our two consortium partners had one called ACI, Advise, Connect, Inspire, led by Steve Lakin, who's here. Why don't you raise your hand, Steve? And the other partner in the consortium, Biolabs, represented by Laura Stevens here. Together, the consortium provides multiple services to support innovation in the therapeutics and diagnostics, or therapeutics and vaccine space, specific to the development and innovations around development of medical countermeasures to enable our health security. And we are focusing very specifically on the early stage and have for years now. Running accelerator programs, very much targeting the de-risking of these endeavors, both from a scientific standpoint and from a commercial standpoint. And it's that reason that the VITAL Hub is so I think critical to the success of these vaccines and therapeutics, because there are multiple needs, shall we say, that startups encounter as they are de-risking. So VITAL will provide two main services. One, an accelerator program offering de-risking services for 8 companies in the accelerator, and development, evaluation, and validation contracts through Barda. I'm very happy to announce today that our website, vitalhubhealth.com, is up and running today, and that the press release has been announced, and that our first solicitation is in fact open right now. So why are you all sitting here? You should be out applying. So we've got the first solicitation up and running, which is a prize challenge for innovations in very specific areas that you can read about on the website. Okay, so I think that's all I will talk about right now, and I think I'm going to pass it back to Karen. So congratulations again to Barda. Thank you for the vote of confidence, and we are looking forward to working with Barda and making a contribution over the coming years. Thank you very much.
I won't be speaking again. I'm going to be inviting the panel to the stage. You know who you are. Mark's going to have to come back up. Yep. Today, our panelists are going to be discussing the next generation of the Barda Accelerator Network. I will have each of the individuals actually introduce themselves, but just very, very quickly, we have Mark Filerman. Manbir Singh's Program Manager at Barda Accelerator Network. Valerie Arbolita, Associate Professor in the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine, Human Genetics, and Computational Medicine, UCLA. And Niraj Doshi, Senior Vice President of R&D and Program Management at Avita Medical. I'm supposed to come sit with you guys.
Let's push. Will you hold it to talk?
hold it. I think if you hold it, it works.
Push to talk.
Yeah.
Push to, oh,
We're doing
didn't
walkie-talkies
get the
here.
instructions, sorry.
Hold to talk.
Thank you.
What would we do without Emily? All right, so we're going to start the panel off with brief introductions, skipping Mark, since we already got his. Valerie, why don't you go first?
Sure. My name is Valerie Arboleta. I am a pathologist at UCLA. I'm an associate professor. My passion and what I love to do is I think a lot about genomics as a diagnostics, and I think a lot about rare genetic disorders. It was only in 2020 with the pandemic and sort of that onset where we really started thinking about infectious disease genomics. And so that's how I got into this space. We had a need, we developed a test quickly, and we scaled up at UCLA in order to test our community as well as other schools and universities around Southern California. I think we also did some testing for UC Irvine just to add to the capacity, but we were ultimately funded. The UCLA SwabSeq lab was funded through the RADx program to really scale up our diagnostic because it was not your traditional, it was a sequencing-based diagnostic. We were really able to scale up to 25,000, and sort of the goal was to get us up to 150,000 tests a day. I will say that was a bit of a stretch, but we were able to get to sort of 25,000 a day in theory, and we did 2 million tests. We're still testing actually for COVID at UCLA. So if you go to campus and use one of our tests, you can still get a test through CDPH there. And so right now we're at the end of our initial, we're thinking a lot about sort of the next stage of infectious disease diagnostics, and we're funded by the Barda Easy BAA, sort of very early stage, thinking about how we're going to get FDA clearance. And so we've been very thankful for the support and the guidance and mentorship to get us to this point where we're really starting to think seriously about that clinical trial to get us to that next step.
And my name is Manbir Singh. I wish I could think about those things that Valerie just said, but I can't. So I co-manage a Barda Accelerator network with Mary Larkin, who you will hear from in a bit after this session. But my background is primarily in the life sciences biotechnology industry. So started off in the lab doing infectious disease research, a small biotech, a CRO, but definitely got tired of pipetting way too early and way too fast, and wanted to build that bridge between business and commercialization. So in my previous role before joining the Barda team, led a lot of startup studios, spin-out programming that was being developed by different federal university labs. So these are all federally funded programs that were funded by DoD, DHS, NASA, NIST, DOE, for example, to really spin out technologies that were being developed in those labs and build startups around them. So gained a lot of expertise and experience across a very technology agnostic domain, but always had my heart was set in life sciences. So when the opportunity arose to think about the next generation of the Barda Accelerator network, was able to join the team and now get to have all the fun as Mark and Karen alluded to earlier.
So, Niraj Doshi, you can hear me now. I serve as the Senior Vice President of R&D and Program Management for Biomedical. And I don't know if you noticed our logo on one of the slides that was presented earlier, but we are an industry partner with Barda. We actually established a contract with Barda back in 2015. And as part of developing the technology that Avita now markets, it is a point-of-care device that does tissue regeneration. And the initial impetus was to help burn victims and to actually utilize their own autologous skin cells to actually process that and then spray them back onto the patient. And the purpose that Barda was interested in this was in the event of, say, a national emergency, this would be a MCM, a medical countermeasure. And so as we developed the product from the concept phase, Barda became very interested, helped fund the clinical trials that we underwent, and then we actually worked with Barda to go ahead and submit to the FDA as a Class 3 medical device, which is a PMA submission to the FDA. And so, as part of working with Barda, we also established a team at ULP. So, the benefit has been that not only have we had the benefit of working with Barda and utilizing and exploiting their expertise and their processes, but also leveraging, the ULP facility and what Karen and her team have put together here. So we're kind of a poster child straddling both parts of the universe.
Thank you. Now, I want to start with Mark. We keep talking about accelerating. Let's just talk about acceleration. What does that mean? How do you do it? How do you do it well? And where are the challenges?
Great question. Totally unscripted. So I will answer it in a very genuine way. So I will say that, first of all, the later stage of innovation usually gets a lot of play, right? The Series Bs, the Series Cs, they get a lot of play because the dollar numbers are big and it makes the news and they're closer to IPOs, et cetera. But where all the fun and the real work and the hard work is in the early stage, where acceleration is absolutely positively critical. And there are many frameworks to talk about acceleration, to think about acceleration. Kind of the two that I'm most familiar with and that we as Vital, and certainly the work that I've done personally through START 2, are the framework is in the translation stage and in the early incorporation stage. These are two critical phases where acceleration is very important in the ultimate success. So I think of accelerators really as de-risking tools, de-risking instruments, and in the early phase, in the translation phase, it's really about getting scientists out of the cool science and thinking about the commercial application. And then in the early stage, it's, how do I get funding? How do I make a compelling narrative for non-dilutive or dilutive funds? So when I think about acceleration and its importance, it's really all about de-risking and, importantly, commercial de-risking. So START 2 has worked with 85 companies over the past, since 2015. We've had 10 exits, totaling over $1 billion. ACI posts similar numbers. And it's through those experiences that I've really come to appreciate the importance of acceleration, particularly in therapeutics, vaccines, diagnostics, and devices.
Thank you. Now, this one's going to go to Manbir. I think Asim briefly spoke about the previous accelerator network, and now today we're launching the next generation. He put you up and said you were going to discuss the lessons learned. Can we start with that?
Yeah, actually before I do the lessons learned, I'll take you all on like an entrepreneur's journey, right? For why was the first network even formed? And that was primarily, as the name Barda is advanced research and development. So a large part of Barda's opportunities are for taking companies that are post-IND, taking them into market and through clearance, either to be able to work with and support and provide vaccines, therapeutics, devices to U.S. citizens, but also for being able to store them in the Strategic National Stockpile. But in 2018, the Division of Research Innovation Ventures was formed because there was a big gap, right? You can't take companies through phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials if they're not making them there. So that was step one. And then there was a gap, right? So how do we go out and find those early stage companies, innovators? And if you kind of think about the entrepreneur's journey, phase 1 is problem solution fit, right? You're in this new market, so what we do, we partner with companies already running accelerator programming in the life sciences to really help us build that geographical reach that you saw on that map that was on the screen earlier. So with this, we partnered with small, big organizations that were all running programming that could really help us support and identify those great technologies, before we even knew there was a pandemic coming, right? They definitely played a big role later on in the game. And now, you think about 5 years later, what can we do now, right? So that's how we ended up with this new model that we're building that has a lot of components of all the lessons learned, both during the normal operations, as we now call them, of the network, but also during that rapid response scenario when it was all hands on deck to identify the next diagnostic or device or PPE to support us. So with this network and understanding technology landscape, I think everybody in this room will agree a road to market for a digital health tool is way different than a therapeutic or vaccine. And if you don't know that yet, join the Accelerator network. Their associations will be open soon. So that's what we did, right? We are taking now a technology-focused approach to acceleration, focusing on individual technology areas that are of interest to Barda's mission space that we can then support early-stage companies in the medtech diagnostics, therapeutics, vaccines. We'll have an enabling technologies hub to really focus on just clinical support tools and across the continuum of care, biomanufacturing innovations. We'll have a special populations hub that focuses on populations or threat areas that generally don't receive much focus, so either pediatrics or low resource settings or immunocompromised populations. And then finally, we'll have a digital health hub as well to really focus on those tools that as we're getting to that stage where your phone is your doctor sometimes. It can be your dietitian and help you diagnose anything. So really setting up that stage, but then also realizing, along that way that, a lot of early stage companies can't necessarily just, join an accelerator and learn about the business, commercial capabilities, but we also need to build a way into supporting them with the technical development and really help guiding them into being able to get that right data or the proper data to then take their technology to the next step to de-risk it. So that's why we have the development, evaluation, and validation component that Mark talked about earlier, where we're able to provide small funding opportunities, non-dilutive, to companies and help guide them to the next stage, which will set them up for not only for Barda, with all of our other mechanisms and opportunities that we have to engage with them, but also for other non-dilutive or dilutive funding options across the government and other infrastructures. So that's kind of like the emphasis on how this program came to be. And then, as with the last pandemic, right, we're now ready or building infrastructures in place to be ready for the next one. So with that, we have a rapid response capability where we're building a strong infrastructure in place with our partners. And once we have all 5 hubs, it'll be a full network. We're not building silos here. We're all gonna hang out every day or on a stage like this maybe. And be able to then scale up both response and sourcing, identification of startups, and really help de-risk them along the way. And I'll pass it back to you.
Good news is you're not going anywhere because we're on
So
lockdown.
come talk to us during networking time.
This is the best time to shake them down, funding. All right. So I always wanted to learn this, I think, and Mark and the Vital team probably have the same. When you were looking at the different, requests for proposals, what differentiated Vital and iCreate when it came across your desk?
Yeah, so the government loves great acronyms. Step 1. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, so it was really the consortiums that you all brought together individually that really shows the ability and depth of expertise to help support technologies in your relevant fields, right? You both support companies outside of your domains, right, that we're working with you for. You have a big portfolio of therapeutics vaccines that we saw earlier, and you've supported a lot of diagnostics and devices. But building the consortium, really looking for how organizational structure-wise, iCreate coming together with the expertise and learnings from RADx and supporting the ecosystem, being in a vibrant medtech hub, and then with Science Exchange bringing in to really help connect those early-stage innovators with potential CROs and other folks to help take technology forward. On the Vital side, building that vibrant global network. That's one of the things that we always talk about at Barda is unlike a lot of other agencies and federal funding, our mandate is global. So how do we build a global infrastructure network? So partnering with an organization that has worked in Europe, all across Americas, Germany, other places, Asia, and then bringing together their expertise and network of mentors and subject matter experts and consultants to really help us scale up with both not only the infrastructure and incubation opportunities with biolabs, but also with the advice and expertise that UCI brings with the network. And the acronyms.
Okay, I know you guys are seeing the alerts come up. It's because our AV team is with UCI, so they're getting the alerts, but we're not on campus, so we're totally safe. So we're on campus, but not on campus. UCI Research Park is actually not on campus, but we're at a UCI building. So just FYI, rest assured, nothing is going to be happening to you. If there was, I would be pushing you out of the way. All right, so Niraj is a self-proclaimed poster child for Barda, Avita. So I know Valerie.
We refer to Niraj as number 77.
So I think Valerie and Niraj, you both with Avita and with your work at UCLA, very, very different journeys. Can you speak a little bit about the Barda partnership? I think you briefly touched on it. I'd like to start with Val first, because you're not really a company yet.
Yes, we're definitely still at UCLA. We sit on the 8th floor of what used to be our old hospital called Center for Health Sciences. And it's actually kind of the origins of this lab. So we're called the SwabSeq lab because that was the original name of the test that we brought up. But we started in a research lab that in someone who had a MySeq, so he had the sequencing capacity, we could sort of move quickly. I was at the bench pipetting in those early days, and I would pipette, we would run something, our friend would analyze it, and the bioinformatics team, and we could just sort of do this 3 or 4 times a week until we had a system that worked. And at some point we said, well, if we actually want to test people, we can't do this in this lab. This is a yeast lab. They're doing yeast genetics. We just don't have the right, I knew that it was not the right space. So we asked the university, I said, if you want us to really get this moving, we need to move into a real space that we can get some CLIA certification. We can build it the way it needs to be built if you're testing human samples and you want to actually give back results. And that was sort of that phase that the university was really supportive of. And we've stayed in that space. We've had a lot of success in getting some federal funding to build up, scale up our sequencing capacity, and then with Barda to help us think through what we need to do for the first sets of FDA approvals, and sort of starting those conversations with the FDA of what we will need to get it through that full process. But I think there's always been talk, we've always sort of thought about, well, we should probably spin this out at some point, because the university is great at some things. We have right now we're on the 8th floor, we can see the ocean from the space we're in, but there's always this push and pull that they want us to do other things, they want to do other things with our space, and they're sort of like, well, maybe your funding will run out, and so we're always kind of at this precipice of trying to figure out how to move forward and to do it quickly. And I will say that the university is often auditing us because they're like, why do you need all these sequencers? Why? There's no more COVID. What could you possibly still be testing? And so these are sort of some of the things that have started to come up now that we're past the pandemic is over, but we're still testing and continuing to innovate in that space. The question is sort of what comes next. And so we had partnered with Barda early on, sort of thinking about what that next step is. We have a targeted multiplex test that really only tests COVID, but we would like to be able to test everything agnostic of what the potential infectious disease threat is, and whether we can test all of the different pathogens, how many of them can we detect, and then can we detect new emerging threats. LA and Southern California is a hub. We have millions of people coming through LA, through our airports every day. And so we sort of are one of those first points of defense against sort of new pandemics or emerging threats. And so we really think that it's important for us to be at the front lines and to maintain this testing capacity. And I think the real question for us is we need to get it through the FDA so that we can do this as a test, a first-line test when we're really starting to see a new pandemic come up. And then also, how do we maintain this over time? Because the testing funding is sort of like it's a different space when you think about diagnostic testing and how you support it.
I know a great accelerator that can help you with these questions.
All right, well, Niraj is a very different journey.
Yes, that's very true. So ours actually started where the technology that was developed was actually invented by Dr. Fiona Wood, an amazing surgeon based out of Perth, Australia. And it came about when the Bali bombings occurred, and there were some unfortunate individuals that were very severely burned that were air transported to her hospital. And in her research, she had discovered that she could actually kind of improve the entire healing and the clinical outcomes by using the patient's own skin cells to actually treat them right at the point of care. So she then translated that technology into a company called C3, Clinical Cell Culture, which was ultimately licensed to Avita. And so Avita took on that technology, and then we had to, in order to actually submit to the FDA, we actually had to go ahead and, as I mentioned, go through clinical trials. So we ended up getting something called a breakthrough device designation, which allowed us to go ahead and start using the device in continued access and in clinical trial space, where Barda funding actually was vital to actually paying for the devices that were being used during the clinical trial. So as I mentioned, we signed on with Barda back in 2015, and as a result of that, they actually helped with their expertise review a lot of our regulatory documentation in terms of the statistical analysis plan, in terms of the actual clinical protocols, all of that. And so as we progressed along, we made it through to submitting our FDA for the PMA, received approval in 2018, all of the while actually still partnering with Barda. And as we came out the other side with our approval and started marketing the device in the United States, Barda at that point went ahead and asked us to engage in something called vendor managed inventory, VMI. And to what Manbir said earlier, which is, being for national preparedness, the strategic national stockpile, in the event that, let's say, a mass casualty event occurred, Barda felt that our device, Avita's device, would be extremely helpful in that instance. So they actually went ahead and purchased a bulk number of devices, and we managed those devices as part of the vendor managed inventory. And there was several kind of reporting functions and various other things that we established with Barda. We also established kind of the whole communication chain that would need to occur in the event, God forbid, that a mass casualty incident occurred, that would allow us to actually go ahead and do an emergency deployment across the United States. So this is something that has been ongoing, and as a matter of fact, we changed initially the concept with Barda with the VMI was for us to actually maintain those devices as separate devices that were owned by the government but managed by Avita. Now we've moved to a model where the government has first right of access to our safety stock inventory. Because we are, actively selling in the United States, we maintain a certain safety stock. And so now, rather than buying a bulk of these devices that are just sitting there, what we do is we rotate and have a certain inventory set where if in the event something occurs, the government has first right of access. So the contract has evolved over the years, and so really we've served in kind of establishing these new processes and protocols and overall partnership, and they're utilizing these models with their other portfolio companies. And so that's where we're serving kind of as a guinea pig for a number of these processes. And at the same time, as I mentioned, what we're doing at ULP, and something that Mamir also mentioned, which is that advanced research aspect of Barda, we're continuing to advance our research in the technology, and I've got two scientists sitting in the back over there who are working to advance that technology, and we're utilizing the resources at ULP to actually do that advanced research. So,
Great. Now, outside of funding, because everybody's like, ooh, Barda's going to fund my startup. What else did Barda provide, and where did they really add value for you?
Well, for us, in our work, we really had value added when we were thinking about what are the key experiments that need to be done in order for us to develop this proof of concept that that this technology works, that it can detect the different infectious disease we want in the right clinical samples. And in academics, we tend to be like, ooh, shiny new thing, let's try this, let's try that, how about this? And so it was really great for us, I think, especially coming out of the pandemic when we were sort of thinking, kind of going back into research mode instead of full production. It was really beneficial for us to have these one-on-one or monthly meetings in which we met with a team of subject matter experts, sort of saying, well, what about this? Maybe you should ask the FDA this, and sort of helping us craft the questions that we wanted to ask the FDA for our Q-Sub, to really get the answers we needed so that we could design the right trial moving forward and make sure we're doing the right specimens, asking the right questions, getting our technology specs sort of up to snuff, so that the FDA was like, okay, these are the different things. Put more samples here, add more data here. We want this type of validation. This is sufficient. This is not, and sort of helping us think through how they're thinking about validating a new type of technology. And that was a huge value added, because I'm not sure, when I think back to it now, how we would have gotten that expertise anywhere else.
How about you with Vida, Niraj?
a lot of what Valerie said is absolutely correct, in the sense similar to what they've experienced. Avita experienced the same thing, where Barda, not only do the government likes acronyms, but they like processes, right? And so you actually have to have good processes in place, good documentation in place. And as I mentioned, they were very helpful in providing subject matter experts when we were dealing with sterilization of our device. They had a sterilization expert. When we were dealing with manufacturing issues, they had manufacturing experts, quality, regulatory. So they provided, they provided the subject matter experts that we had great discussions with, and really helped us put a solid, not only regulatory package together, but beyond that, when we were working with our suppliers and even on the medical reimbursement front, these are all aspects that Barda has been instrumental with.
Manbir, did they miss anything? Or Mark?
Can I just add one quick thing? So when I hear you guys talk, it's so affirming, because it's exactly that role of acceleration that played a part in your success, right? And one of the reasons why we're so excited about the Barda Accelerator Network in its second embodiment is that this provides the critical infrastructure to enable these accelerator advantages to be realized in a very sector-specific and technology-specific way. And expertise over here doesn't always translate to expertise over here, right? A digital health is very, very different than a vaccine. And it would seem sometimes from the outside that, well, these are scientists, right? They should know what experiments to do to de-risk the technology, right? That should be obvious. And it's alarmingly not obvious. And you need subject matter experts with different vantage points and different experiences to triangulate around that startup to help them de-risk not only the technology, but also the commercialization pathway. And that's one of the things that we're so happy about the network, right? Being able to provide.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say the same thing. You've already referred us, folks that we need to be talking to. So that really is the power of the network. So, Manbir, you had something to add?
I mean, so Mark, took all the words out of my mouth for that one. But I think, no, that's the goal, right? Is, as you heard from both Val and Niraj, like Barda's goal is to be a partner to take these companies through market and help support, medical countermeasure development. So with the Accelerator Network, that's our intent. That's short-term and long-term, right? Right when we launch the solicitations, we'll have the first cohort of acceleration companies that we're working with. We'll have companies that we're able to provide funding to. And then, we'll keep on scaling and growing that partnership and ecosystem to really help take, ideally this big funnel of companies into our various mechanisms. And, within the ideal way, we'll have companies that get funded by the EZBA with our smaller non-dilutive funding options if they need incubation space or otherwise through Blue Knight program. And then, once they're at the venture stage, potentially investment in Barda Ventures, and then going on to like the BA, and then even back to more BA and otherwise, right? So that's really the momentum we want to build here with the new Accelerator Network to really help all these technologies, go through their critical valleys of death and help pass through.
So now thinking ahead, we're preparing for the next emergency. What is Barda really looking to achieve with the Accelerator Network? What components do we need to get in place? How do we get ahead of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I wish I knew all the answers, but I think we have a small part of the puzzle here that we're fighting with, right? So first and foremost, to Val's point, something that's of great focus is agnostic technologies, whether it's a therapeutic or a vaccine or a device diagnostic, to help us really prepare for disease or threat X, right? We don't know what's going to come next. So it's really a big focus for the network overall in terms of the mission space that we're supporting. And then, along the way, as alluded to earlier, early stage companies, they have the inflection point for both their business commercial strategy and what to do next, whether it's growing your team, bringing in new IP, taking in additional investors, or anything in between. And even at the earlier stage for a smaller, maybe academic, when Val and team decide they want to spin out into a startup, how to go to the licensing process and all those growing pains. So that's more the business commercial side. But then, at the same time, these are novel technologies that have a large impact potential. So how can we also provide some sort of funding or support to these innovations to help move the needle in the right direction? That's our main vision here. And then, from there, we'll, as both Karen and Mark know, they are our guinea pigs in the Accelerator Network. So we'll learn along the way and keep on growing and be better.
Well, we had number 77 as a guinea pig, and he's on 9 years, so I think we could do it, right, Mark? We got this. So do you term out after 10 years, Niraj?
Technically, yeah. The Barda contract actually does. There's the statutory limit of 10 years, but that's where we're in current discussions of how we can actually continue beyond that. So.
You're guinea pig again, so when we get to year 9, Mark, the path will already be paved, so. All right, well, when thinking about the Barda Accelerator Network, this next gen, we've been talking about disaster preparedness and medical countermeasures. What about impact to the broader community as we're thinking about, right? What are your thoughts in regards to that? Like hospital at home, like what's the impact in the broader community outside of just preparing for the next disaster?
Good question, and I'll actually also turn it to both of you, who are the ones supporting all these global innovators everywhere. I think one of the biggest things for us is not setting any boundaries or restrictions to where innovation is happening. So with the network, we're building a global sourcing capability within each of the hubs, and then once the network is fully formed, how to cross-share, right? Mark is already sharing deal flow and companies with Karen. It's going to be back and forth, and you add 3 additional partners. Maybe they're a consortium, maybe they're not, but they'll bring in additional. So really, we're able to build this vibrant global network to help us identify the right technologies at the right time, and then really help position us to be able to support them and de-risk them to a certain point where then they can go on and work with us in the future and be an app on my phone or a patch on my elbow whatever I need next. that's the real main goal here. No matter where they come from, and even within the network itself, right? We have a special populations hub that we want to focus really on a lot of underserved or underrepresented communities, and with the immunocompromised communities, which are generally elderly patients, or pediatrics, and all the other spectrum, that generally don't get the attention for a lot of these innovations, because that market is not always the most financially viable market for a lot of innovation to go through. So really wanting to help facilitate that ecosystem and being that partner who can help guide and build that bridge.
Go ahead, Mark.
And and then at the end of it all, right? This is what we're doing in normal operations. If and when there's another emergency or something happens, we want to rely on this network to really help us scale up all of our operations, right? This normal operations, we'll call it the test. We'll see what happens, and we'll optimize everything, get everything prepared, and then next emergency or next whether it's something that's man-made or environmental catastrophe, we'll be ready to respond if there's that need for early-stage companies to take that stage up.
Yeah, if I can just add, so I'm excited about the network sort of in 3 areas. One, the fact that Barda is very consciously moving more upstream and working very deliberately with early stage. The second is that they are sourcing globally. So both of the hubs have a global reach. And I think one of the things that was so apparent in the early days of the COVID-19 was, we could use a little better coordination, shall we say, across the Atlantic and across the Pacific. And the hubs can provide that very, very explicitly. So no disrespect to Barda intended, but that's something that the hubs are very intentional about. And Barda's funding of non-U.S. entities is a great step towards that. And the final thought that I have on it is that knowing for the early stage how to allocate resource between a specific asset or indication and a platform, that is a non-trivial choice that manifests in multiple ways. And accelerators in general can help in the balance between those two things and how to fund appropriately the development pathways and get those funded, dilutive and non-dilutive. So,
I think for us, I think it's just the ability to stretch across our networks again through the hubs. I mean, just initially right off the bat, even our collaboration with the Barda team, I think right off the bat you see that there's this floodgate of open of information, of resources, and the communication has been. Accelerators need accelerators too, and I always say that. We always talk about startups need a community and they need resources, but I think as a system we need to look at what we can improve in our own systems and in our community of innovation. And being located in Orange County, we're a nascent system. We are not mature. We're not a Boston, and we're definitely not a Bay Area. We're the emerging. We're the new kids on the block. So I think as far as impact goes, that's what our region is really, really excited about, to be able to now connect with a global system that can support the technologies that are coming out from all over the world. Now, I don't want to get in the way of you and the bar. Is the bar here? Oh, yes. The food. Oh, wow. Yes. Wow. See? Caterers, man. They're crossing the chasm, too. So closing remarks before I don't want to be the person getting in the way of you and the bar. So let's start with Niraj. Closing thoughts as we kick off this accelerator, and then before we bring Mary on stage. We have a lot of startups, a couple of startups, and just an innovation ecosystem here. Some thoughts from you?
I think it's a fantastic opportunity. you know, as I mentioned, we've benefited quite a bit, not only from the funding, but overall the entire infrastructure that Barda provides and their expertise. So, you know, when there's a solicitation, I would highly recommend that you put, you know, 130% effort into actually pursuing it, to see how you can benefit. Even just the application process is, you know, something that you get a lot out of. So.
Is it going to take a year?
If Mark and Karen do it well, it should not take a year. That's the goal. Maybe a couple weeks. Or a month.
So Vitals is already open. ULP's, the MedTech and Diagnostics, is opening in July, and it'll close in September. And then we actually will be hosting a competition in September, which is a nice cash prize. So that's our timeline. Are you guys, is Vital just doing one solicitation this year?
No, so we've got one solicitation that's open now for cash prizes. Finalists will be encouraged to attend in a pitch event and half-day symposium in Berlin at the end of July. So Berlin at the end of, end of June, thank you. Europe in general, but certainly Berlin, end of June, not terrible. So, so that solicitation is open. We have 2 more solicitations open that will be open in early June. That's for the Accelerator program and for additional development, evaluation, and validation contracts and awards. So 3 solicitations this year.
Any closing remarks from Val?
I will say I'm quite inspired. I didn't realize that there was this, I think, such a breadth of underneath Barda's umbrella, because we've been really under the BAA and we're relatively new. So I think thinking through sort of where we've been talking about where we're going to take SwabSeq next, and it's really exciting to hear about all the different potential avenues to move forward.
Manbir, before we bring Mary.
No, I mean, I'll do the marketing plug. You know, follow us all on LinkedIn, you know, our socials, follow Barda, follow the hubs, because a lot of exciting stuff is happening, and we're only getting started. As we launch the next hubs too, they'll have their own solicitations and own opportunities. So if you don't happen to fit within this current mold, you know, don't worry. We'll definitely build something that works for you as a startup as well.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to bring Mary Larkin with Barda, project manager for Barda, to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mary Larkin, and I co-manage the Barda Accelerator Network with Manbir. I know we want to get on to the ribbon cutting and the festivities, so I'll keep this very brief, but definitely wanted to thank ULP for hosting us today. We're not just excited about launching these hubs, we're really excited about working with the people who run the hubs, so thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for being here today. We can see how well this group does under pressure, right? So I think we're ready for a public health emergency or any other kind of disaster that comes our way. If you're looking for more opportunities to engage with the hubs and Barda, part of the Vital Hub is Biolabs. Laura's team will be hosting a breakfast at the San Diego Biolabs location on June the 4th. So if anybody is planning to be at Bio or just be in the area, please mark your calendars for that, and we'd love to see you there. And with that, I will invite the Vital team and the iCreate team and the Barda team up for ribbon cutting. Thank you.